Hi again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of No Holding Back. My name is Ben Holden. Pleased to be joined on our hockey editions now by the man to my left, Fred Pletch. Fred, how are you?
I am great, Benny.
Great, and it's great to be working with Fred again.
I got a little growth going.
Yeah, you got the playoff beard going, man. It's good to be back doing some stuff with Fred. And he's going to welcome in our guest at the bottom of our screen, who he goes way back with to the junior days in the OHL. Freddie, it's all yours.
Yeah, proud and honored to bring in our guest. Haven't talked to him for a while. Ryan VandenBussche, former NHLer, 11 or 12 seasons pro. And if you look up Busche's Wikipedia page, it says he is best known for his pugilistic skills. So, Ryan, down on the shores of Lake Erie at the VandenBussche compound, how are you doing?
I turned a new leaf. I'm a lover, not a fighter now. I'm doing very well, thanks, Fred.
Well, Benny, I got to tell you that the first time I became acquainted with young Ryan, who's not so young anymore like the rest of us, 1990. He's like what were you, 11th or 14th round draft pick?
14.
What? 15th?
14th.
14th round midget pick out of Delhi Junior C hockey to the Cornwall Royals. And a guy by the name of Owen Nolan had just been drafted first overall in the NHL, the draft in Vancouver by the Quebec Nordiques. So at that time, like today, the junior camps open before the NHL camp. So first day on the ice, here's the first overall pick in the NHL and the 14th rounder from Delhi Junior C. And Ryan caught Owen with his head down, as I recall. And I'm not sure how many concussions that Owen Nolan had in his hockey career, but I'm pretty sure he was concussed that day. What do you remember about the hit, Ryan, and what happened? You thought you were getting sent home, I think.
Oh, I remember it very clearly, actually. And I also remember my dad's advice before I went to camp. He says, you're a 14th round draft pick. You better do something out there to get noticed in a good way. So, I just went out there and played my game, and I played hard and skated hard and finished my checks. But with that particular incident, I remember I didn't even know if it was Owen Nolan or not, but it didn't matter at the time. They came over the blue line and he cut across the ice towards the middle of the ice, and he just happened to have his head down when I met him halfway through there. And that didn't knock him out. That pissed him off really bad. And then the puck came down to our own end, and the puck came around the boards, and I'm a right winger. And he's frothing at the mouth, and that puck's coming around the boards, and I know he's coming to smash me pretty good. And at the last second, I had my head down, eyes up trick. And at the last second, I turned my shoulder into him as he was about to hit me. And then that's the one that gave him the concussion. But, he went off to Quebec that year. He still played in Quebec that whole year. And I'm glad he did stay, because if he came back, then I probably wouldn't have a job. So I think Mark Crawford liked what he saw there. Pardon me?
Yeah, because initially you thought, you were getting sent home, but Mark Crawford, he loved it. Just absolutely loved it.
Yeah. Little did I know, Mark. He was a physical guy himself. I didn't know much about Crow back then, and so he's a great coach.
So take us through, Ryan. When I want to get to kind of the backstory of your career too, as well as you worked your way up. So from that point, where did you go next?
So from my time in Cornwall, after my second year there, we were there for 2 years, 91, 92, and then 93, 94, they moved to Newmarket Royals. They're called the Newmarket Royals. And then halfway through that season, a lot of the core, the nucleus of the Cornwall Royal team from the prior years got traded away, and I was one of them right around Christmas time, and I got traded to the Guelph Storm. So John Level was a coach at the Guelph Storm, and my first year junior, Mark Crawford was a coach, and he went and coached St. John's, Newfoundland, and then John Level took over my second year in Cornwall. And then when the team moved from Cornwall to Newmarket, John Level got a new job with the Guelph Storm, and we had Sean McKenzie as our coach in Newmarket. And then John traded for me that year, and then it was then the following year. I was after my second year of junior A, I was drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then after my third year of junior, finishing in Guelph, my first year pro was with the St. John's Maple Leafs.
I think there was probably 3, 4, maybe 5 seasons toughing it out in the minors and riding the buses and Binghamton, Springfield, place like that. You get to the NHL, it was, I'm looking 96, 97, and playing Benny with some guys you might have heard of, Gretzky, Messier, Leach, Graves, Robitaille. I mean, is this like a kid in a candy store, Ryan, or is just business as usual?
Yeah, no, it was definitely like a kid in a candy store for sure. Like my first NHL game was, I look on the bench. I'll never forget that. I was sitting on a bench in Buffalo, and I looked to my left, and there's Mark Messier, and to my right is Wayne Gretzky. I had to pinch myself. Now, don't forget, Gretzky and Messier came in the league. I think it was 79, 80, or 78, 79. So I was like 6 or 7 years old. So I grew up watching those guys, and then fast forward and a few years later, and I'm on the bench with them, playing with them. But I'll never forget being drafted by Toronto. I was just tickled pink because, it was pretty much our hometown. I live an hour and a half southwest of Toronto, and out in Norfolk County. And when I got drafted by Toronto, I was just excited about a training camp. I had no, expectations to what was going to happen after that. And then after I was pro eligible, after my junior career was done, I was fortunate enough to go out to St. John's and play at that wonderful place. What a great place St. John's, Newfoundland is. And the fans are great. And I'll never forget getting my first paycheck in the minors, coming from junior, making, Freddie, I don't know if you knew this, but it's like $35 every 2 weeks. I don't think it's much better now either. Maybe for the guys in London for the nights, but so $35 every 2 weeks. And I love the game, right? And then I get to St. John's, Newfoundland. I didn't even remember. I was making $35,000 Canadian. And when I got my first 2-week check, I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm getting paid to play hockey. And then after my first year of playing in the minors, I was like, okay, now I understand why these overagers were pretty pissed off if their check was late a few days, because you actually earn that money. It is a job.
So
and then, go ahead.
St. John's, Newfoundland, I think I was there 4 or 5 times during American Hockey League trips, but it's got to be the kind of place where if you had a week, you would go there tomorrow just because the people are so nice. It's just such a fantastic place, right?
Yeah, they truly are. And the fan base there was unbelievable. We played in the old stadium. So it was like a little Maple Leaf Gardens, and it was just packed. And if you're walking down the streets, I'll never forget, like you attempt to cross the road, cars are going to stop for you. You know what I mean? They think you're going to cross the road. Around here, just either you got to wait. But it's a nice atmosphere. It's a great way to turn pro.
First NHL goal came with that 11-game stint with the Rangers in 96, 97. Walk us through that. I know you started behind your own net and went coast to coast. And
yeah.
Guys.
It was a shot from the point and it went off my nose and into the net. No, it was a pass from Bruce Driver in the neutral zone, from Bruce Driver to Mike Eastwood to me, and then I was coming up, and I came in over the blue line, and I shot the puck short side on Ron Hextall. Somehow, I don't even know how it went in, but it wasn't that hard of a shot, and somehow it snuck in there. I think the defenseman that I shot it through his legs screened the shot. So, yeah, that's how I got my first goal, and I'll never forget that one.
So obviously, Bush, you told us you grew up watching Gretzky and Messier. Every kid who grows up is going to be a skill player, a 25, 30 goal scorer in the NHL. But you played in the age when teams had what are now known as enforcers. When did you figure out, like many did, if I'm going to get to this league and stay in this league, there are certain things I'm going to have to do? Or was that a gradual evolution in your game, or you knew that's the way it had to be tracking? Well,
having Mark Crawford as my coach for my first major junior A experience made that pretty clear. To he one thing about Crow is everyone had a role and he just did it well. And if you didn't do it, then you were gone. It's that simple. And, was I a bit of course, I think anyone that's playing major junior A or turns pro is, somewhat of a goal scorer in their minor hockey days. And did I ever think I was going to grow up to be a fighter in the NHL? Absolutely not. Never thought I was going to ever play in the NHL. It wasn't until I, played junior B and then I got drafted by Cornwall and I'm thinking, okay, then I made the junior A team. Okay, well, there's an opportunity here for me to maybe get drafted, work my ass off. So that's when I really took it serious and just listened to the people that have been there, done that, like our coaches, and did what I was told and finished my checks. And when I finished my checks, people didn't like that and they came after me and I didn't back down. And I really just kind of honed in on my skills that first year of junior A. I fought in junior B because the same thing applied, and junior C, finish your checks and guys came after you. And so I kind of got introduced to fighting then. And then junior A, I realized that, that could be my niche to get to that next level.
Well, Ryan, Freddie mentioned the 11 games, the stint you had, your first stint in the NHL, and the one goal. You had 30 penalty minutes. What do you remember from your first fight in the National Hockey League, and who was it against?
It was against Brendan Witt from Washington. We were in Madison Square Gardens in New York. And it was quite a while because I got called up a few times and I never really got into just the opportunity wasn't there. So I was kind of anxious. I felt very anxious to get that off my chest. And so it turned out to be a good one.
So I know, listening to some other guys who played your role, like Tony Twist in St. Louis, said he always just enjoyed it. Others, like Stu Grimson, said it takes a mental toll on some people, and they're always thinking about the next fight and who they're going to have to go up against. Where did you fall into that realm in terms of impact on psychologically, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. Did I like fighting? I didn't mind it, to be honest with you, as long as I won. If I lost, then I just pissed off and maybe want to fight again to prove myself that, you don't lose 2 in a row. So that was kind of my mentality. I grew up with a brother. He was 16 months older than me, and we never really saw eye to eye. So we tended to get in some scuffles, and they were pretty full of fist fights back in the day. And so I wasn't afraid to get hurt, and I think that scared people, and I could pack a punch. So I think it wasn't until I got older when I actually got in a scuffle with Kyprios, and he went down pretty hard, and it's like, wow, this is scary, and I could get seriously injured. And then you get you start thinking about, you're young and dumb, you don't really think about tomorrow, and then as you get older, you get married and you have kids, and you start thinking about, wow, I want to be around for a little longer and not have all these aches and pains, and you start thinking about things. So that created some anxiety. But the whole overall picture for me was, in my own head, I felt like I couldn't lose in the NHL or pro because I was a small guy. I wasn't a heavyweight in stature. So I felt like, okay, I go into a fight, I lose against a guy that's usually bigger than me that I'm fighting, that I'm supposed to lose. If I tie, well, it looks like I did pretty good. And if I won, well, I look like a hero. So, it didn't really bother me for the most part. And I didn't mind it as long as I had a job, I guess.
Plus you had that advantage, you're a lefty. Yeah,
I didn't realize that either until junior. So I was throwing rights in junior C and B, and then somehow the left came out.
Everybody likes to find a home as a pro. I guess Chicago was that place for you. Tell us about your Blackhawk days, and I think you went through 4 different coaches in the 4 seasons you were there. So turmoil from a coaching standpoint, but you were a regular.
It was fun. My days in Chicago, it was funny. When I was a kid, I was 14, 15 years old. We just moved to Tillsonburg, and just to give you a little history, going to Chicago, and we purchased Chico Mackey's old house in Tillsonburg, and I found a tie clip in the fireplace where we put the wood, and there was a Chicago Blackhawks tie clip. And I looked at my mom. I said, "Look at this, Mom! Look what I found." She said, "Maybe you'll play for the Chicago Blackhawks one day." And that was always my jersey growing up in practice in minor hockey in Dell. I always wanted the Chicago Blackhawks jersey. So I get traded from New York to Chicago, and I just thought, "Wow, this is great." And I'll never forget putting my jersey on for that first game. It was the spring of 1998, and I ended up signing a pretty good contract at the end of that season with Chicago. It was my first one-way contract after playing 4 or 5 full seasons in the pro. I finally got my one-way contract with Chicago, and I'll never forget what a learning lesson I had, because I kind of had a good summer that summer, because I was single, I had a good contract, I had security for 2 years, and I went to training camp in not in my best shape. And guess what happened? Dirk Graham was a coach, sent me down to the minors. So now I'm in the minors, making $500,000 wage, and then battling out in the minors in the IHL. Had to fight everyone down in the IHL. They shipped me to the American Hockey League with a farm team in Portland, Maine. Had to fight everybody there, and then Lorne Mulliken, Dirk Graham got fired. Lorne Mulliken got called back up, and I was coaching, and then I got called back up, and then from then on I was there for a few, probably 6 more years after that. But what a lesson I learned. Don't take anything for granted, that's for sure.
I want to ask you, Ryan, about Probert was there with you, right?
Yeah.
We got to hear some Bobby Probert stories, man. He's beloved in these parts, as you know, and beloved around the hockey world. And sad that he's gone, obviously, and all that. What can you share with us about Bob Probert? Some good stories, some bad stories, whatever you have would be awesome.
Yeah, he was just honestly, he was a gentleman. I'll never forget being first traded there. We played a similar role, obviously, and he was the guy that I looked up to. That I certainly didn't want to fight a guy like him. I never actually played against him, and so we were roommates on the road. So I played with him for 7 seasons, pretty much, and then roommates with him for 4 of those 7 seasons. And he taught me how to ride a Harley Davidson, a motorbike, because I never even grew up with a dirt bike. So we're flying into Tampa Bay, and he says, "Hey, let's go rent a bike." And I'm like, "What do you mean a bike?" He says, "Yeah, we're on a Harley. I don't have a license. Don't worry about it." So our captain, Tony Amante, and Bob Probert were both seasoned riders. And then Aaron Downey, remember Aaron Downey?
I remember, yeah.
A tough guy. Him and I didn't have our bike license. So we jumped in a cab. We went to a Harley dealership, and Proby taught me how to drive the bike in the parking lot. Tony taught Aaron how to drive the bike, and we figured it out in the parking lot. We jumped on the back of their bikes. There's no bucket law there either, so you don't have to wear a helmet or nothing. So we're passengers on their bike, and we drive, I don't know how many kilometers away, to another Harley dealership. They rent 2 more bikes. Okay.
Oh,
so now we each got our own bike.
Yeah.
And Downey and I don't have our license. So we're driving, and we ended up driving to St. Pete's Beach and had some dinner there, and came back. And I'll never forget the ride back. I was so happy, but I was a little nervous on the way back, because now it's getting darker, and things are a little bit different then, and they're going a little bit faster. And I'm like, Jesus, Murphy, I'm gonna try. It's hard to catch up, right? So I never forget. I was so nervous that I could barely look to my right, and I hear this horn honk, and I want to look, and I finally mustered up enough energy to look to my right, and there's Proby on his Harley, hands off the steering wheel with the camera, took a picture of me like this on the freeway, and I'm like, awesome. You fucking crazy bastard.
That's good stuff.
But no, just a really good team guy, off the ice, just a teddy bear. Something to be feared with on the ice. Obviously, everyone knows that. Family guy. He had 4 kids, beautiful kids, still does. And they are all great people. And Danny's doing well. And back in Windsor, he's a family guy. I remember picking him up with a cab, and the kids would be standing at the door waving to him, and just loved him. And always took him. When the kids got a little older, he was always taking them on Lake St. Clair skiing and stuff like that. So. He was an overall good man. When we came into Detroit, we always made a point of going across the border to visit his mom, and we'd stop at the Tunnel Barbecue and have a little bite to eat there. And then we would see his mother Teresa, I always called her, and so we sat in there and we just had good conversations, and it was just it was a neat experience to be around a guy like him and get to know his family and stuff. He's seriously missed.
That's awesome to hear your story. Thanks for sharing that. It's terrific. Freddie?
Well, I know a great thing about pro athletes, sometimes their careers give them the financial stability to pursue some other interests, Ryan. And you've got that great place on Lake Erie near Port Dover, Spooky Hollow. I remember going through there. Benny, where Ryan's place is. I was there when my mother was pregnant with me. It's that close.
Okay.
So you've been able to pursue things, Ryan. And last time I saw you, you were planning the first ever Bushstock music festival. Tell us about those early days and where that's morphed since.
Yeah, well, trying to give you a little history, I was very fortunate. I bought land. I had a little bit extra money from playing hockey, and I put it in land. And then when the lockout came in, when was that lockout? When I was 04, 05, I think it was. I was in Pittsburgh at the time, and they canceled the season. And I was like, I looked at my wife. My wife looked at me, and like, well, what the hell are we gonna do if we're never gonna play hockey again? Because I was about 31, 32 at the time. And it really made me think about, post-career, what am I going to do? Because I didn't make enough money to, sustain my, I always drove a pickup truck. I never did anything extravagant, really. I just bought a nice piece of property along the shoreline. And that's where my money went. And that's where my equity is, right? So we knew we had to work. So we decided that from then on, okay, as soon as I retire, we're going to get a real estate license. And that's what we did. So we hyper-focused on getting that done real fast. Probably within 6 months, I was licensed to sell. So I retired January 2007, and I was selling real estate by August 2007. So got right into it. So it's a fairly good transition for me. Fred, this is important too, because a lot of young kids that don't think about that. And I was the same way. They're always told, like, what are you going to do when you're done? What are you going to do when you're done? And you got to be so hyper-focused on doing what you're doing to get where you got to go, or else you won't get there. So, but there is a time where you got to think about it. And so you got to prepare yourself for that. And that's what we did with real estate, and that helped us. And then someone introduced me to now how I got into the cannabis space. Someone introduced me to cannabis for medical purposes back in 2010. And so I applied actually in 2009. I was licensed in 2010, and I realized that when I left the game professionally, I was somewhat dependent on opioids. The Percocets, the Oxycontins, the Ambiens, help you sleep at night. We had a lot of that because we were always dealing with time changes and stuff like that. So cannabis helped me get off of that, and I transitioned 100% off of that. So then that kind of motivated me to really believe in the medicine, and I had a vision that this is going to be a lot bigger one day. And so I went out and purchased my own farm in 2017, and then put a plan together and built an awesome team that we're into the cannabis space. Just got my license last week, actually, so I can now officially be called an LP. And then we have a game plan to make plant-based medicine, which is so important, especially whether you're with this COVID-19 thing going on, like your immune system's got to be strong. And I'm a big believer it's a better alternative than the deadly opioids that plagued our nation for the last number of years. So I'm really excited about to start that new venture. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Well, congrats to you. I know that just like your career, you won't take any shortcuts with the business plan. Tell us a little bit about the musical connections that you made and established over the years, because there was some good acts going to the property there for a while.
Well, going through that application process, it was time consuming, and I have a lot of grass to cut around here, and we always had like to have some friends over and family and get a few bands, and then it got to a point where it was kind of getting big and people were coming down that I didn't even know who they were. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, this is getting a little crazy. What are we gonna do? And so we thought, okay, well, let's kind of, organize it, and we'll do like a fundraiser festival type thing. And we called it Bushstock. And what we did, it was like over the course of a weekend. And we had bands play out through the whole day. And then we had tents that were designed for, arts and craft tent, or a drumming tent if you want to learn how to play drums, or an arts and craft. So stuff like that. And then had a good time at night, and that was it. And camped out, provided camping. But that was, we opened the place up for 3 times to the public. The first year was Norfolk and Blues, and the last 2 were called Bushstock. And so it was a neat experience. Probably something I probably wouldn't do again. I don't think we got the property all rezoned to do it again if we wanted to. But it was a lot of work and it was time consuming, and it's you're dealing with the weather, Mother Nature, and so it's pretty risky.
I just keep remembering, for some reason or other, Mumford and Sons. Did you have a connection with them?
No, nothing. That was done at the Simcoe Fairgrounds right in downtown Simcoe.
Okay.
But that was so we did our Norfolk and Blues. I think it was the year before that, and then the Mumford and Sons came the following year. We took that year off, and then we started Bussche a couple years again, two preceding years.
You were also part of those morale boosting ball hockey tours to Afghanistan. Were you not in support of the Canadian military? Tell us about that. That had to be a cool experience.
Yeah, that was a cool experience. Proby actually got me onto that. He was telling me about that. He went down to Afghanistan back in 2009, and so he put a word in and got me down the following year in 2010, and or maybe it was 2009. I couldn't quite remember. And what an experience! We just went down there to break up their everyday monotony, what they do every single day, and just kind of speak with them and make some meals for them and share some stories. They like to hear our stories. We like to hear their stories, type thing. And we would bring different. So there's usually about 4 or 5 hockey players that would go down, and then there'd be a few football players and some MMA guys. One year we had a sanction. I've been down there about 7 times, 5 times Afghanistan, and they had a sanctioned fight, an MMA fight, which was pretty neat. Tom Green came down with us. So they bring a comedian down. And then do a concert. We had the Carpet Frogs one year come down, and Default, a few good bands. So it was just a morale booster for our troops, for everything that they do for us here back at home, and make our country as great as what it is. I mean, I'm so happy to be living in Canada, and seeing the guys who are on the front lines, battling for us is pretty neat. They kept on thanking us. I'm like, what are you thanking me for? Like, we're thanking you guys. So it was really easy to do. Played some ball hockey, and yeah, it was good.
Street hockey, road hockey, ball hockey. You probably got a chance finally to be a sniper in ball hockey.
Yeah, no, I know my role. Just grind it out in the corners and get the guys who can score goals. I'm good.
Ryan, I want to go back to the music stuff. What's your genre of music? Or is it a wide array, or is it one specific type?
Very wide. I like everything from, country to heavy metal, alternative rock, grunge rock, even classical sometimes, if I got to really focus on something. But yeah, I'm pretty wide open. Blues. We did a blues concert here, Norfolk and Blues. I like the blues too from Chicago days. It's a great vibe.
Yeah,
Blues
I was.
What a great bar,
Blues Chicago. Go ahead, Fred. You go.
No, I just got to get a pitch in for Blues Chicago every time. We go to that bar, my wife and I. It's unbelievable. It's the real deal, right?
It is. Next time you go there, go to Kingston Mines too. It's another good place in Lincoln Park area, just downtown from there.
So your hometown, Ryan. I know I'm a nerd, a geek in stats in that sense. Collected cards as a kid. Your hometown. How many players that you know of have come from Simcoe, Ontario, that played in the NHL?
My hometown is Delhi, Ontario. I was born in Simcoe.
Yeah.
So from Delhi, how many? There was a gentleman prior to me. His name is Barry Bugner. He played in the NHL, played for the California Seals, and a few other teams. And then Jordy Kinnear. Have you ever heard of Jordy Kinnear? He's coach of the Florida Panthers farm team in Springfield now. He's the head coach there. And a lot of guys that played some minor pro too. So it was a small little town, and it was a great little area. Simcoe, there was Walmsley and John Stevens and Red Kelly's from this neck of the woods, Rob Blake, Nelson Emerson, Jason Cullimore. We had quite a few.
Coley Campbell's from Delhi, isn't he?
Coley Campbell's from Tilsonburg. Just the next town beside us. Yeah. So
who are your 3? I know you mentioned Jordy, and I remember you were close to Jordy coming up through the ranks. Who are your maybe 3 best friends in hockey that you don't go a month without checking in with?
Yeah, Jordy would be definitely one of them, and you know, my dad was a guy that I always talked to after every single game. You know, I had a lot, like, there's a lot of different guys, like, you know, that you meet out through the year. Rob Dykeman, you remember Dykes? So, to this day, I still talk to him on a regular basis. You know, he was our goalie in Cornwall. And
Snake
so,
Dykeman.
yeah,
I remember my sons taking Jesse and Teddy over to Davina's house where they billeted. My
yeah.
kids, Benny, were maybe 4 or 5 years old, and Robbie Dykeman had these boa constrictors, big boa constrictors. And he said, "Yeah, come on over. I'm going to feed them on Saturday." So I took the kids. Snake Dykeman throws in a live something, and I just remember the look on my, like, Teddy was like 4 years old, just.
Yeah. Well, he was my roommate my first year, right? That's how I met him. And like, oh my God, you got freaking snakes. Are you crazy? Like,
Goalie though.
Yeah, he's a goalie, that's for sure. But yeah, so I mean, like, that's the beautiful thing about hockey. You know, like, guys from minor hockey you keep in touch with all the time. Like, if you always get your, you know, your close friends and a hockey team, you don't have to be best friends with everybody, but you're going to gravitate to those, you know, couple, 3 guys. And you know, you have them for years later on for buddies, and it's just nice to have that camaraderie. And you know, you back in Cornwall, like, those are the start of the days back then, and I'll never forget those days. They were great, as they are now.
Yeah.
Except for the COVID thing.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Well, let's touch on that, man. How you guys seem to be dealing it. You guys as Canadians, I mean, seem to be dealing with it well. You guys seem to be following the rules a lot better than a lot of people are in our country. What's it been like up there through your eyes?
Well, my nearest neighbor's a kilometer away, so I don't really see many people to begin with, and I don't really leave home all that much. So
That's good.
We got a lot more space. I'm just glad I'm not in the U.S. right now. No offense, but no, I think it's just we're in a rural area too to begin with, so we're not downtown Toronto or anything like that. So we're pretty fortunate, and we're pretty, like, there's a lot of good campaigns going on about, you know, social distancing or more so physical distancing. But you know, I can understand people. I feel really bad for the people that are in apartments that, you know, are by themselves and that are elder, and you know, their health is not 100%. And we gotta, you know, there's a lot of selfish people out there that just ignore the rules, and they think about themselves, but they could be carriers and giving it to other people. So I think if we all do the job of staying home and you know, do our job of just staying home basically, and go out and get groceries, and that's it, and we'll flatten that curve. And I think that's starting to happen. I hope. I haven't watched the news. I try not to watch the news every single day because it gets a little depressing, but I do like to get updates and see where we're at, and I feel like we're going in a better way. But it's important right now, I think, these next 30 days to really keep it tight.
Ben, I know in Michigan, you and I are familiar with the Jobby Nooner. You know the Jobby Nooner, which is I think it's the second. It's one of the Fridays in noon, Ryan. Everybody takes off and they just invade Lake St. Clair, the northern part of Lake St. Clair. So
you're right.
In Ryan's neck of the woods, it's Potahawk. So Potahawk is just it's a Saturday gathering that can get kind of crazy. So I would think things like Potahawk are going to be threatened this year, right? It just makes sense.
Oh, for sure. Any public gathering, like, I won't be going out there. That's for sure. I think it's just, like I said, these next, well, at least 30 days is going to be key. But it's you know what, it's just it's a time we have to sit back and reflect on, like, what's really important. Let's get a roof, like shelter and food, you know, the basic essentials. Get shelter over your head, and get the proper foods in you, and live a healthy life. And I think, you know, maybe some of us will want to work at home after this all gets through, and they're going to have different priorities maybe. Who knows? But we're going to take something from this pandemic and turn it into a positive. And that's the most important thing right now, I think, is for people to be positive and know that we will get out of it. And just got to work as a team and all pull in the same direction. In the U.S., they give a 10 times population, right?
Yeah, I mean,
and a smaller landmass.
330 million people here, and I mean, where Fred and I live, there's over 30,000 cases. Michigan has been, Freddie, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've been in the top 3 for quite a while behind New York and New Jersey with cases.
Yeah, it's a world hotspot, Detroit.
Yeah, it's not, I think,
Wayne County.
Sorry, Freddie. I think normally when I'm doing my thing, Ryan, like I told you, I'm a play-by-play guy by trade, but I'm flying every single week. And I think a lot, Fred, you can probably attest to this too. In the new Detroit airport, when you go in, if you're going to the 40 gates and higher, there's usually 2 or 3 flights to China. And, you know, from what we know, that's where this thing came from. And I think one of the reasons why we're so high here is because Trump didn't shut things down from China until after the fact. And I think more people came in. I mean, there's other factors, obviously, too. But Freddie, what do you have to add to that, if anything?
No, I just, you know, it's kind of understandable. We would put it in our own terms, and we're worried about sports.
Yeah.
And is there going to be a college football season? Is there going to be a minor pro hockey season? But those are issues.
NHL season.
Yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
those are issues that, you know, should be the last of our concerns. And, you know, let's face it, sports are going to be the last area to open up. I mean, you talk to doctors and health officials now and reading their quotes, they're talking recommendations of no gatherings of more than 50 people for up to a couple of years.
Yeah.
So there are as yet unforeseen consequences that are going to impact us. And to Ryan's point, maybe it's a good time for us to all get back to basics and look after the people in our immediate neighborhood, you know, check seniors and make sure they're good. Check everyone's got, you know, the food they need, their electricity is working and all that stuff, because these are unprecedented times.
Yeah.
100%, Freddie. Well said.
Hey, Ryan, I've got one thing for you. You know, I visited you down, that was maybe, 2012 or 13. And I remember my brother-in-law taking us on the boat tour near Port Dover. And I forget who was with us. And everyone's saying, see that property there? See that property there? Elton John bought that. Elton John bought that. Have there ever been Elton John sightings? Did Elton John buy that big property or not?
No. That was built by Scotland Trucking. Yeah. So no Elton John. I haven't seen him, maybe, but I haven't seen him around. Pretty nice place though, eh?
It is a nice place for sure.
Ryan, I just got one more for you as we come to a close here. I really appreciate you doing this, man. It's cool to meet you. I wish, you know, hope someday I can meet you, you know, face to face, but this is awesome. And certainly remember you playing. I want to know the top 3 guys that you went against, man, when you dropped the mitts.
Well, I broke my nose 3 times out of all the fights I've been in, professional fights, on ice fights over 300. I broke my nose from George LaRock, Stu Grimson, Wade back. And not just because I broke my nose, but I really do feel like those 3 were extremely tough. Belak, you know, he could throw both hands, and he was huge, and he was mean, and he wanted to hurt you. LaRock was big, strong, big lefty. Wasn't killer mean, you know. It wasn't mean, I don't think, like a Belak was, but he was extremely strong. And then Stu Grimson, he was tactical, very smart and methodical, and wanted to hurt you too, because he really didn't like fighting, I don't think. So those are my 3.
Thanks for sharing, man. That's cool. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great to hear you talk about that. Thanks. Ready?
Well, Bussche, I always say the great thing about hockey is you don't talk to a person for 5 years, 10 years, maybe 20 years, maybe last week, but you can just pick up like you were with that person yesterday. And that's how it feels for me with a lot of people, how it feels today, just talking to you. It's great to see you. I'm glad you're safe and happy and well. I know Lisa, your wife, has been through some tough times. I hope everything's good with her as well right now, and we can all look to the future.
Everything is awesome. We are all healthy at home and doing our thing.
All right.
So I hope you are well too. It's so nice to hear from you again, Freddie.
Yeah.
Take care, guys.
Appreciate you answering the bell for us today.
Yeah.
No problem.
We're gonna have Crow on. I only know him as Mark Crawford, but Freddie's educating me on his nickname for him. and everybody else. We're going to have him on Thursday, right, Fred?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I would say Crow would be one, besides my dad, he's one of the influencers of why I got to where I got from a guy like Crow. He was a tough coach, but he was firm but fair. And, he ended up coaching me my first year pro too in St. John's, Newfoundland. So my first year major junior A and first year pro. So make sure you say hi to him for me.
Well, maybe we can wrap up, Benny, with one more story. I'll get Crow to tell it, I hope, on Thursday.
Yep.
But it was like a Tuesday night game towards the end of the season. Ryan's team's out of the playoffs. Mark Crawford's coach, and we go to Oshawa. And Eric Lindros and the Generals just absolutely mop the Cornwall Royals.
Yeah, I remember that.
The bus gets back at like 3:30 in the morning. I've got the flu. I'm sick as a dog. But Mark lives around the corner. We drive together. He gets the players off the bus 3:30 in the morning, and he rips them for a good 20 minutes. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
You remember what happened the next day?
Yeah, I remember what happened on the ice. Yeah.
So tell us that story. Is it?
You want me to finish that story?
Yeah.
please.
So he tells us after we get ripped, then he tells us to get on the ice. Get on the ice and line up along the boards. So we all thought we were doing Wally. Well, he stood in the middle of the ice and he talked about how he could be a better coach. And then he started skating himself and made himself do laps around the ice. And then he would pause in the middle and he would talk more about what he can do to be a better coach and some strategies or whatever. And then he would skate himself. He did this for 45 minutes. And by the end of it, he could barely talk and he was sweating. And he said, "Get the fuck off the ice now."
He begged himself for 45 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
It was like, what happened?
Wow.
But
Well, Ryan,
he was
thanks
great.
so- Sorry, go ahead. Finish up.
That was all good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man. We appreciate it, and continued success to you and everything you got going. You told us about. Really appreciate your time. Best to your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you later.
Right back at you guys. Cheers.
Okay,
All right.
Thanks, Bushy.
Ryan VandenBussche joining us here on No Holding Back with Fred Pletch. We'll have an all-new edition coming up down the road.